In one of your videos, you were talking about the Celtic goddess Danu and her origin in India. Could you please tell us a bit about that? This is a very interesting topic. Very ancient connections that originate in India. So, I'm not sure how many of you know it, but in the Rig Veda, our oldest known text, the oldest known literature in humanity. So, in this text, in the Rig Veda, we have the mention of a goddess called Danu. She is a primordial river goddess. She's a river goddess, all right? And she is the progenitor of the Danava clan of ancient Indians. They are Asuras. They are termed as Asuras. And they are called the Danavas because they are the descendants, the children of Danu. So Danu is a river goddess. Her descendants, her children, her offspring are the Danavas, who are Asuras, and that's the story. And in the Rig Veda, she is the mother of the great sea serpent Vritra. Vritra is the great sea serpent who encircled the ocean and cut off access to water to all humanity. And 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 the great warrior, the great lord Indra, had to fight this great sea monster and defeat him and free the waters of the world. So that is the mythological story that we have. Maybe it's something that originates in some real life event that must have happened very long ago, and it was mythologized in that manner, in the form of a sea monster and all that. But Danu was the mother of Vritra, this great sea monster in the Rig Veda, right? And she was the progenitor of the Danava clan of ancient Indians, of Asuras. And apparently the Danavas were kind of little bit slightly evil, and there was this clash, this war, and they lost the war, they lost the battle, and they were forced into exile out of India, and that's where the story ends. We don't know what happened to them, what happened to these people, the Danavas. Now, if we look at geography, it tells you a very interesting story. So let's go back to the map. Let's remove this for now. So if we look, so we talk about Ukraine these days, right? Let's go to the city of Kiev. Kiev, Kiev, Kiev. So this city sits on a certain river. That river is called the Dnieper. Dnieper. So there's a whole bunch of rivers in Eastern Europe that are named Don, Danube, Dnieper, Dniester, Donetsk, and so on and so forth. And the linguistic origin of all of these rivers is the word Danu, the river goddess, the ancient river goddess. So it looks like these river names that trace the eastward migration of a bunch of people who worshipped this river goddess Danu. Maybe it was the Danavas who were expelled out of India, forced into permanent exile, and they went westwards gradually. And whichever great river they found, they named it after their ancestor, the great lady Danu, right? And the word for water in the ancient Scythian language, the Saka language, was Danu. And there's a lot of yeah. So even in the, I think, old Persian language, the name for drop or water was Danu, and certainly that's how it is. So you can see that there is this significant influence of Danu in Eastern Europe, in among the Scythian peoples, among the all the Indo-European peoples. And these river names, they seem to trace the westward, the gradual westward migration of a bunch of people who revered the goddess, the Rigvedic goddess Danu, right? And now we find that if we go all the way west to the island of Ireland, if we look at their ancient foundational story, their mythological foundational story, so according to that founding story of Ireland, the first peoples of Ireland were called the people of the goddess Danu, the Tuatha de Danann. That was their name, and they revered the ancient, their mother goddess, who was a river goddess called Danu. Right? I mean, can this ever be a coincidence? So it's clear that a bunch of people went out of India, migrated westwards out of India, and gradually made their way across Europe from east to west. And whichever great river they found in Europe, and they must have settled on along these rivers for some time. They named all of these rivers after goddess Danu, and eventually it looks like they ended up all the way west in Ireland, where the people of Ireland considered Danu to be their progenitor mother goddess, the river goddess. So that is the story of the goddess Danu, the Irish goddess Danu, which seems clearly to be the same as the Rigvedic goddess Danu. I'm sure there were several centuries between the events that led to the expulsion of the Danava people from India and their eventual settlement all the way west in Ireland. Maybe that took more than 1,000 years, possibly. We don't quite know. I'm sure if we do the right kind of research, we may be able to trace back the chronology of the migration, possibly. But that, in a nutshell, is the story. A Rigvedic goddess who ends up in Ireland as the mother goddess of the Irish people. Isn't that fascinating?